So before we get going, one thing I forgot to do on the last person that I interviewed was to introduce them, which is kind of a key point, right?
Minor detail.
Yeah, small detail,
minor
right?
Detail.
Yeah. So over to you, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. I guess my name is Rawdon Dubois. I been in the industry, I guess, for about eight years or so. Training for 25 plus. I'm a little older than probably you are. Pushing into the 40s now, so still going reasonably strong. My claim to fame, I guess, was worked at Clean Health for quite some time. Some of your listeners may be aware of Clean Health. Obviously, internationally recognised, but I guess I helped build that business with Dane. So I was his right-hand man for many years, and in that guise, I was education manager, PT manager, finished a club manager, and I guess I dealt with. I started dealing with more physique preparation clientele, and that's where my background's bodybuilding. So in the IMBA, I don't know if you have the IMBA, International Natural Bodybuilding Association in the UK. It is in the US, but you may not have it there. But so that's my background. I competed a few times, did reasonably well, and got into PT, and then found Clean Health. And Dane prepped me for my first show. Worked for Clean Health for many years, and left Clean Health a couple of years ago, I suppose, and created my own brand, which I very originally called the Dubois Method, which has an air of mystery. You don't know what is this Dubois Method. It's just how I do things, I suppose, influenced by many. If you do follow me on social media, there's lots. I'm always educating myself, and I draw inspiration from for everyone, and heavily evidence based, but a bit of bro science. I can't.
You
much
need a
like
mix.
Yourself, I think you. Yeah,
you need a mix, right? You need to be up to date with the latest stuff, but you can't beat what's tried and tested and works. You just can't.
Dude, yeah, the biggest guys on the planet. We've got to take something from them, and they're not. They're sort of touted as being the diamond, typical bro split and all this type of stuff, but a lot can be learned from them. So, and that's probably your background too. So, and then it's created my own brand, and then preferentially putting everyone into the IFBB, which is UK BFF, I think, over there. Yeah, for you guys. And then got a gig judging. So I had a bit of a trial go, and they passed with flying colours, and apparently I scored quite well.
Great.
In line with the rest of the team, and got a ticket as an IFBB judge, amateur obviously, and then got my international IFBB judging accreditation when I judged the Arnold Classic last year. So and I helped judge the amateurs this year again, because it's an international show. IFBB judge and a physique prep coach for the IFBB primarily, but I do some IMBA, some both federations. And one of my other claim to fame is James Kant IFBB Pro is the first, if anyone who listens may follow him, James Kant Fitness, reasonably well known here in Australia, but internationally. He was the first men's physique pro in Australia, so I helped him. I prepped him essentially for that.
Wow!
And still involved with his prep. He's not. He did really well with his debut in the US, and then he went back over and didn't do so well. Now he's having a bit of time off, and I think end of 2018, he wants to try and be on the Olympia stage. So undoubtedly, I'll be involved in that process somewhere along the line. But that's pretty much me in a nutshell. All I do is, fortunately, I managed to wiggle out of being one-on-one coaching anymore. It's not my thing. I prefer to be behind the scenes on the laptop, designing all cool training programs, nutrition programs, supplement programs, and educating myself. That's where my time is best spent. So it's a completely online business. I do skin folds with athletes that are local to Sydney. So some come from interstate and get the skin folds done. But I got a guy in the UK, Kevin Walsh, you may know, working with him, actually in Ireland. I think he's in Ireland, isn't he?
I think so, I've come across him.
Kevin Walsh, a couple of guys in Q8 I'm coaching, a couple interstate and Perth, and the rest are local in Sydney. But yeah, bodybuilders, physiques, figure, women's physiques, do them all really. But it's all online, like no one-on-one coaching. It's all just done via emailing and various things that I have in place. But I really love what I do. Most of my time, if you do follow me on Facebook, is
I was just about to bring this up. I'm not a huge coffee drinker, but I thought, you know what, if I'm Skyping with Rawdon, it would be wrong not to.
Mate, you got to. you got to. Although that would be a filthy instant, some sort of instant coffee. But I am a bit of a coffee snob. But yeah, I run a business from cafes and network and do consults and do all that cool stuff, man. It's I've paid my dues in a commercial gym for many years and worked my way up through the ranks. But I'm really fortunate. People support what I do and I'm very grateful that I do have the support in the industry that I have. So, and obviously I get decent results, so that obviously helps.
That helps.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I said to Akash is, you just come across so positive, like you genuinely love what you do, and this is awesome.
Yeah, man. I just
you get lots of trainers,
especially
they put content up, and it's great, but you just see. Just your posting style, the daily espresso photo, a smile on your face.
Yeah,
it's just, you can tell that you're just living the dream.
Yeah, man. Like
it comes across.
To describe to your listeners what I do, we have the podcast that you mentioned at the start too. So that's the other thing that I forgot to mention. It's been going for 3 years now. I think we've had a couple of 100,000 downloads over the last 3 years. So we're doing reasonably well. Fortunate that. I know a few people in the industry who pull strings, and they know people, and I managed to, hassle and hustle and get various people from the industry that know far more than you and I. Get them on, and they can, and that's always great for business. But so my week has, there's a couple of days allocated. Wednesday we're in the studio recording. Monday I write programs, training programs. Tuesday I have a few mentor sessions, one regular with Menno Henselmans, one regular with a guy called Broderick Chavez, who's a prep coach in the US. If you've listened to our podcast, you'd be familiar with him. Super good guy, biology background. Mm-hmm. So that's my education day. Then Wednesday, studio recording with Tommy Hewitt.
Yep.
Then we have whoever on there. And then Thursday in the club doing skin folds and also updating client updates. So they send me a report every week. So I review all those on Thursday, give them feedback, check the progress pics. Skin folds in the club, see how everyone's going. Friday, skin folds in the club again, so a local club here in Sydney. And then Saturday, I start putting any new athletes that I'm starting up their plans together, just writing nutrition plans, starting to update the guys. All Sunday, update everyone's nutrition programs, supplement programs, and then it all starts again. But that's, and lots of coffees and cafes in between. But that's my world. It's
sounds good.
It really is. It doesn't feel like work, man. I'm lucky.
It sounds really good. You're basically where I would like to be. So I've been doing this for 11 years. Worked the last 4.5 Ultimate Performance, similar setup I guess to Clean Health, and then it got to May this year when Akash and I both said, you know what, we really enjoy the online coaching, similar to you. We've done our time on the gym floor. I like being a little bit more hands-on and advanced with clients. With Ultimate Performance, it was a great company to work for, but it was general population based. Yeah. You can't really experiment too much. Whereas with the online training, it attracts more the intermediate advanced trainees, and you can try some different nutrition protocols. You got the shows, and you're basically... Carry on.
We've got UP in Sydney just open up. So John Bond, you may be familiar with John. He's familiar with you and Akash. Yeah. He spoke highly of you guys, said you were pretty switched on. You went over to his place and
we went over to Hong Kong and did a seminar,
Yeah, so he likes what you do. But he's I actually catch up, network with him, and he actually came. We did an Under the Bar seminar a couple of weeks ago on fat loss. So we had an integrated practitioner present. We had a neuroscientist, Luke Tulloch, who works with me here at the Lift Performance Center. Had Tommy, obviously, and myself. So we had there were 35 to 40 attendees. So we at the Hilton in the Sydney.
Very nice.
So we put on a real swanky do, and but he brought the boys up from UP. So really cool guys down there. They're doing good things.
Yeah, it's a great company for sure.
A good product, like you said. General pop, get them in, get results, get them out. Like it's tried and tested, but you're following a system, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I still, if a beginner approaches me, complete beginner, UP, or
100%.
UP, they're very good at what they do. But I just done it for a while. It's time to kind of step it up a gear.
Spread your wings and get out.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I saw from the outside looking in, anyway.
Ah, good, perfect.
Just on social media, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to put out. We're really trying to target the intermediate advanced clients. So the content that we write, we're not trying to mass market it and clickbait type stuff. We're not trying to appeal to beginners, general population. And I'm actively, when we're having inquiries, I'm actively saying to them, are you motivated enough to get yourself in the gym? Are you comfortable when you're in there of doing X, Y, and Z? Because we may not be the best fit for you otherwise. Just that we don't take people's money and, and they don't get what they thought it would be.
That's exactly what I do, man. I have a series of processes, hoops. I call it, they got to jump through X amount of hoops, but I get inquiries with regularity, and it's like, yeah, cool, all right, let me just send you an email, explain what it's like, and that usually gets rid of them. But if they persist and they come back, it's like, all right, cool, come in, we'll have a coffee if they're local, or a Skype, and then I really sort of test the waters, because it is we'll talk about some of the stuff I do, but yeah, it's intense, and I only work with athletes, comp prep or professional photo shoot. I don't do any, hey, I want to get in shape, I want to get jacked. It's like, cool, when's the comp? Oh, I don't have a comp. Well, I can't work with you. When's the photo shoot? Oh, I don't have a photo shoot. Well, let's make a date for the photo shoot, then I can work with you. Until they get that goal, I won't touch them.
Yes, that's a really good idea, actually.
Yeah, man.
They're driven.
Then they're committed. You know, there's that finish line. You got a nice timeline. So yeah, that's how I do it. But excellent.
Perfect. Okay, so going on to the questions.
Yep.
First one would be, what are your go-to supplements for the majority of your clients, whether for health, fat loss, or muscle growth? So what do you find yourself recommending on like a consistent basis? Do you have go-tos?
About it. Yeah. First, I start with a generous dose of testosterone. Joking. I guess for me, like my guys and girls are working for, I guess, a specific goal for really in their life, a short time frame. From anywhere from 6 to 10 months. I don't, unless it's prior arranged, I don't work with anyone less than 6 months for a preparation, unless I've worked with them before. And so for that reason, I do sort of sell them along the lines of, we don't want adequate, we want optimal. So how can I, supplement accordingly so you can have be closer towards that 1 to 2%? Because we know that the hierarchy of influence, supplements are a very, very, very small influence. But for someone that's getting on stage, that very, very small influence is an influence, and I want to influence that, because it may actually be the difference between getting a place and not getting a place. So, basically, I run the same supplement stack across all my athletes, and it's all ordered off iHerb. So it's just a list with all the links. I send it out to them before they start. I say, hey, you're going to be starting next week. This is a list of supplements that I require you to buy. No kickbacks for me. It's all. I use the Now brand. Like it's a reasonably competent. Looks great brand. Good range. Has everything in there that I want. And I guess in the morning I start off with the multivitamin. Do you want me to rattle off?
Please do. Yeah.
So just like a male or female specific multivitamin, zinc, chelated zinc. I get them to have about 3 to 4 grams of omega-3, so a krill oil usually. I go for the krill over the fish oil. This with the vitamin, I think it's vitamin A for the intestinal lining. It's slightly better.
Yep.
But a krill oil, 3 to 4 grams, not much. A digestive enzyme with like a broad spectrum with all the amylase, protease, lipase, but I think it has some pepsin in there and some HCl. Like it's quite covers all your bases, all-rounder. So that will be the first meal. They'll have so the zinc, the multi, the digestive enzyme, the omega-3s will be in that first supplement. And then with each meal, it's just the digestive enzyme. And then towards the evening, I bring in the chelated magnesium. I go for the doctor's best. They have a nice magnesium glycinate off iHerb that I like. Anywhere between 600 and 1,000 milligrams towards the end of the day in the last meal and pre-bed. Pre-bed, I get them to take I think it's called it's a fiber supplement from Now. It's again got a few different types of fiber in there. It's got I think it's just got psyllium husk and some chia seeds, and it's got 3 different types of fiber. Okay. I supplement that combined with some resistant starch. So I like the resistant starch. A broad spectrum probiotic in there. I think it has about 10 strains of bacteria. The magnesium, like I said, melatonin I put in there as well. And that is my pre-bed. So the magnesium, the melatonin, a couple of fibers, the resistant starch, and the probiotic. And if they have trouble sleeping, I might introduce an inositol I have in there too. And I take some glycine and some taurine too. So a little bit of glycine, a little bit of taurine, a little bit of inositol, and those others that I mentioned pre-bed. With the magnesium in the meal, the last meal that they'll have, which is really close to bedtime as well. And then that will actually be that little stack that I just described will be what they have just before they go to bed. They neck it, and then they're off to sleep in La La Land. With the addition of the Phenibut I put in there if sleep, if they have an issue switching off, sometimes I'll put the Phenibut in there. But just with the nutrition that I prescribe with quite a high carbohydrate content pre-bed, and that 600 to 1,000 milligrams of magnesium, 600 for girls, 1,000 for guys, it seems to knock them out.
Should knock them out, yeah.
Anyway, yeah. But that's the general day-to-day supplements outside of training supplementation. Creatine, obviously, no-brainer. I do use a little bit of the supplements that I do like is I don't use any whey isolate or any protein powders, because usually, as you're well aware, that's what most people have every day for the last 15 years before they come to you, and it's really easy to have an issue with digesting, even if it is an isolate that is inherently lactose free. They still seem to have some GI distress, so I take that out. And I use the Gaspari range. I like the amino last and the glycofuse from Gaspari. So they're the only things that I have with artificial colors and sweeteners. Everything else is void of those two things, but I do allow a little bit around training, and it will be basically just supplementation during the session, because my sessions are long. Long hypertrophy, lots of reps, sets, that type of stuff. So I do supplement carbohydrates, not a lot, but carbs and amino acids, a combination of the glycofuse and the amino-last and the creatine, basically intra-session. And that's the only supplementation I have. I put a meal with protein and carbs, obviously, and a meal protein and carbs post. And then it's just really everyone would know that would supply enough, glucose and a hypoaminoacidemia. But my workouts are long, so I like to err on the side of caution and always make sure there's an abundance of glucose and amino acids while they're training. So I do supplement, but that would come out early on in the piece when I start dieting them into the show anyway. But off season, when I've got a ton of calories, I will definitely throw in some those two things in the creatine. Citrulline malate as well I like to use intra-session as well. And if your athletes can get tadalafil, which is Cialis, which some of your older guys might be winking going, oh yeah, the Cialis. that's a little vasodilator for erectile dysfunction, but a little tip that I got from John Meadows, and a lot of the guys will have it pre-stage, hoping that the obvious doesn't happen, but if depleted, it doesn't. So I like to use, for guys that can get their hands on it, online pharmacy or something like that, I do advocate 5 milligrams of tadalafil pre-training as well. I take it every day. And that's not because...
It's actually great for heart. It's the heart as well, right?
Yeah, it's really good for cardiovascular health as well. Like they're showing all sorts of correlations with it now, and they're looking at it as to help with cardiovascular. It's a good vasodilator. You get a good pump on it.
Yeah, I've tried it before some volume sessions previously, actually, and it does make a big difference. It does help.
I mean, you do get a bit
stuffy nose
up through your sinuses and stuff, but yeah, man, it works well, and I use that pre-stage for my athletes before they go on stage 2, so works well then.
Funnily enough,
but that would be supplementation wise. That's probably what. That's all I do.
Perfect. Sounds good. So you said as they start dieting, you tend to pull back on the intra-workout supplements. Do you keep the aminos in there and just pull the glycofuse, or do you pull both of them?
No, I'll take both out, man, because I would prefer them to eat more food. You know, when they're dieting, they just, they could have, because everything I have has, as you know, amino acids still have caloric value. It's protein. So, I'd rather them, instead of having 30 grams of aminos intra or 15 or whatever it is, I'd rather have them, a bigger serve of protein, pre and post. You know what I mean? It's far more satiating than sipping a drink with some carbs and aminos. And from a hypertrophy perspective, as long as you sandwich that session with a meal pre and post, you're going to have you'll
be fine.
Hypoamino acidemia anyway. And look, I mean, this type of stuff, as you're well aware, like you said, you'll be fine. Is for top end athletes preparing for a physique show. They're looking for that
1 or 2%.
Yeah, man. Like really, it wouldn't make a huge difference anyway, but it may make a slight difference. So I'm going to run with it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
So the Dubois Method. What is your general dieting philosophy? Are you high carb, low fat, high fat, low carb, timed carbs, intermittent fasting?
Sure.
Like, run us through the Dubois Method in a nutshell.
Yeah, in a nutshell, man, it's just energy balance is absolute. It doesn't really matter what you do with, to a degree, it doesn't really matter with what you do with the macros. Macros, outside of making sure you get an adequate protein in, I really put significance on manipulating energy balance rather than, high carb, low carb, high fat, low fat, intermittent fasting. I don't do any of that sort of stuff. It's all very basic energy balance manipulation through obviously reducing calories, reducing what's going in and increasing what's going out. So making the individual do more activity. So I get them to track their non-exercise activity as well. So I monitor that when they start cutting. In the off season as well, I've started doing it. So you can basically, just with a simple Fitbit that I've got on my wrist, basically what I do is I allocate a certain amount of steps, which is probably the closest thing that we can correlate to NEAT, so non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Basically the energy that the individual will utilize day to day outside of training and allocated specific training sessions. So off season, I tell them to hit between 6,000 and 8,000 steps only, which is actually pretty hard. Like some of them are coming back saying, "Dude, I'm doing 10." I'm like, "Well, don't." I want all those calories. I want all those calories go. Yeah, Uber everywhere. Catch a cab everywhere, because I want all those calories driving hypertrophy as much as possible. And then when they start cutting, I as much as manipulating energy balance, like I said, there will be periodic reductions, keeping ahead of adaptive thermogenesis over the weeks. But I will also allocate a step target for non-exercise activity. So 10 to 12,000 initially, and I titrate that up. The deeper they go into prep and the further they get, and the closer they get to the show, I will actually titrate it up to a point. Then I'll maintain that point. So if you've competed and and your listeners will know, everyone gets lazy as hell when they get close to the comp. They can't move, and that's by design. Your body is, from a nervous system perspective, it is actually, and it's to do with leptin signaling and slowing metabolic rate. So there's thyroid slowing down, but the nervous system will also kick in and just stop you moving. And when you do move, you just expend less energy.
Yep.
So it's not only are you going to make conscious decisions to stop moving, but your body will just, facial expressions, body language, it'll all downregulate closer
all
you
the
get to
small
show.
things.
Yeah, all the small things. So if we can somehow monitor that, because that non-exercise activity and reduction in it is the main way a plateau occurs. Basically, it's just that reduction of energy expenditure. So as coaches, we pull energy down or increase energy output with cardio, and then the individual will just sit down on the couch all day. I'll start having sleeps in the afternoon, and you check them on the weekend. It's like, man, dropped to 200 calories and nothing happened. Like, did you change anything this week? No, dude. Like, following 100%. Oh, I did start sleeping for a couple hours a day. All right,
there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
So that's fine. Sleep as much as you want, bro. As long as I get my 16,000 steps at the end of the day. So they might, at 9 p.m. at night find that I got to do another 2,000 steps, and they go around the block a few times. But yeah, getting back to my nutrition.
So just before you carry on,
it's all
just really quickly. Do you have a cap? So you said that you tend to start the prep at 10 to 12,000 steps, and then you titrate it up, and you level it off. Have you got like a rough figure that you cap it at? 18, 20?
Yeah, mate. To be honest, this is with my nutritional and lifestyle setup. I insist before anyone starts working with me that they can set up a lifestyle that's identical every day.
Okay.
So I was already trying to restrict how much they can vary day to day and try and create a consistent energy expenditure every day. So I don't work with shift workers. I don't work with anyone that can't train at the same 2-hour block every day. Mm-hmm. I don't work with individuals that can't get up and go to bed at the same time, can't eat meals at the same time every day. So I was already setting all this up. But this whole tracking non-exercise activity was something that I spoke to Menno Henselmans about. I spoke to Broderick Chavez, 2 guys that I mentor with, and they said, look, it's fantastic. It's a little bit like Big Brother, and, some people might not want to, be told that they have to do that every day. And I said, man, my clients are fine. They work with me for a short period. I'll tell them to walk. So it's an evolution. Like, I've got some at 10 to 12. So I've got the national championships coming up in the IFBB, and it's 11 weeks out. And then I've got the ICM, which is INBA, another federation. They're about 10 weeks out. So I have guys. I've got a big bodybuilder who just cannot hit 14,000 steps. So 12 to 14 is where most of them are at now.
Yep.
At 16 weeks out, I will start a cut. So that's 10 to 12,000. 4 weeks into the cut, I went to 12 to 14, so most of them are a mid-stay 12 to 14,000. I get to 8 weeks out. Mm-hmm. Now, I'll either keep it at 12 to 14,000 steps and just ride 12 to 14 all the way in, because remember, they're going to be doing more cardio anyway, so they're going to be pushed to just fit it in. And the caveat is they got to take it off during cardio.
Yes.
They can't wear it when they train. And another thing that I insist on is that they cannot do it on the treadmill. So I'm forcing them to get outdoors and see the world go by. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a win-win-win-win.
Great.
They get out in the fresh air, and when you're in comp prep, yourself, you tend to get caught up in your little world and doing on the treadmill and training and not getting outdoors too much. Well, but doing this, you have to. You know? So it's just so simple, but so amazing. So some of the guys 10 to 12, and I've had to sort of tweak it back. I gave them a target of 12 to 14, and they're just like, dude, I just can't hit it. I'm like, oh, cool. So we'll keep yours at 10 to 12. Others, champing at the bit. They're doing the 12 to 14 with ease. So maybe up to 14 to 16, maybe one more bump.
Okay.
Because remember the other thing that happens, as you know, like I mentioned, nervous system downregulates energy output. So you become metabolically efficient. So your efficiency improves, so you just don't burn as many calories. And the other thing is, all the exercise, the cardiovascular exercise they're doing, they just become better and better at exercising, so it's going to burn less and less energy. So their NEAT, which once would have burned X amount of calories, whatever that is, when they're close to the comp, halve that, if you like, or third it. So theoretically, it should titrate up. You should try and get them to move more and more the closer they get to the show. But within the realm of what's actually possible in a day. So I'm thinking for you, if you were asking me to put numbers on it, I'm thinking maybe 14 to 16 and just keeping it there from about 8 weeks out. Just try and, some days they won't hit it, then I give them a gentle reminder. And what they do, Adam, is they will send me a report each day. So they send it through on Messenger. So I get all these reports, 12,000, 10,000, whatever. Then I'll go, good work, or hey, you're a little bit below, hit it tomorrow. So they've got these little, and in comp prep, you want these little wins along the way. You want to be doing something constructive every day to get to that finish line. And I find that their compliance has just stepped up a notch. They're all sending their Fitbit reports through. They're all, when I see them for the check-in, they know that they've not only followed the plans, they've done all their NEAT target every day, their step target. Like it's like the whole lifestyle is the laser. Yeah, man, the laser like focus is on, and like I said, it's not for everyone. Like some don't like that level of detail and that level of control. But if you're good at following plans, then I can get you to stage with all these different things that we're going to put in place. But touch base in a couple of months when they've all got to stage, and theoretically, there should be less plateaus with all these guys, because really there's other than misreporting, or not even misreporting, like when we're dieting hard and energy balance is low, we just make mistakes, we're just not thinking about that extra bit of sauce, or we're not thinking about that bit of coconut oil. And it's like, oh yeah, geez, that's an extra 300 or 400 calories a day I was having. Or the extra few, nuts that I have, or a little bit more avocado. It's not through, I'm going to deviate from the plan. It's just
not thinking.
You get fatigued, not thinking, man. Yeah. So aside from that, which you have to just cop it on the chin and keep them on their toes. Aside from that, really, there's not too many areas where they can a plateau can develop, because you're controlling all the little variables. And as you know, as a prep coach, that's what it's all about, being able to replicate it time and time again, not one off, get lucky, and it's like, oh cool, well that worked well, whatever I did. Like here we've got step counts, we got calories manipulated every week, we've got all this raw data that we can then use again and again and again, But to answer, I do that. I get off on a tangent. To answer your original question, my nutrition philosophy, energy balance is absolute. Every week I'm manipulating energy up or down. So off season, I go through a series of, my programs are 8 weeks. So my nutrition is matched to my training programs, and volume will increase throughout the mesocycle. And as it does, so will calories in the off season. And then when I'm reducing energy from 16 weeks out, then it is a process of or a 10% reduction every week to a point, and then I'll come back up for a diet break at baseline. Then I'll continue the process down. In regards to where I put the macros and the fats and that type of stuff, obviously carbohydrates around training and pre-bed. That's where I love to have them. The last place I'll take them out is pre-bed. I know around training, more insulin sensitive and blah, 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 but they're so insulin sensitive anyway, it doesn't really matter when they have carbohydrates. And, the pre-bed, it just seems to be, that's when, if someone's going to deviate from said plan, it's going to be pre-bed, that's when they're hungriest. And sleep as well, you sleep so much better with a bit more food in the tank. So carbohydrates around training, protein set between 2 and 3 grams per kilo. Carbohydrates, fats next, about 1 gram per kilo, and carbohydrates make up the rest. And then when I start pulling energy down, I guess I would probably, start pulling fats out first, and then I would start pulling carbs out, just from I know long term with fat and testosterone and hormonal implications, but for the short term, I'd rather my guys and girls have good training drive and recovery. And I'll forego fats that will come out. And so I guess you'd say my preps would be pretty low fat, keeping the carbohydrates much higher for as long as I can.
Yeah.
But, there's always exceptions to the rule. Some will respond better and have more fat, so I'll have to play around with the macros. But that in a nutshell is my nutritional philosophy. Energy balance is king, and it's a matter of tweaking that and getting that right each week. That will be your, the way that I'll progress either in the off season or cutting.
It sounds like we're on the same page. Pretty much everything you said there, I'm thinking, yep, I agree with that. Yep.
That's the thing, and I talk to, I talk to Menno and I talk to Broderick, these guys that I mentor with, and others. Martin McDonald, he's sort of quite vocal these days and trolling everyone on social media. I love him.
Yeah.
But super smart guy, and it's really, the Twinkie diet. The guy ate Twinkies and had some whey protein, and he got shredded. Lost 20 kilos or whatever it was. The university professor, okay, we're going to do that? No, but that's energy balance in its purest form. Shitty food, but even shitty food will get you lean. And I think his blood markers, all his blood markers improved anyway, even though it was crappy food. So, there'll be these high carb days, low carb days, high fat days, all this type of stuff. It's only achieving fat loss if there is, over the 7-day period, some sort of negative energy balance. It's not gonna ramp metabolic rate up so you burn more fat the next day, or it is just averages over time, and you just unfortunately have to be in a negative energy balance. You have to struggle for energy, you have to have hunger pangs, you have to feel hangry all the time. It's just the way it is, man. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Even if you do various nutritional philosophies, sooner or later the calories have to come out, and you're going to be hungry, and
suck it up.
And I think suck it up. And I think Martin, when we had him on our podcast, it's sort of like, why take your time dieting? Like, why not diet harder, get leaner quicker, and then stop dieting? It's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be unpleasant. Make it unpleasant, get it done, and so I tend to be quite aggressive with energy balance. Coming closer to the show, and the only thing is, like with you and I, we probably track calories where others will not. So that you're on 1,000 calories. The bikini competitor knows she's on 1,000 calories at a week out. And it's like, yeah, but you had, a week of 2,000 calories a few weeks ago when you were at baseline again. And it's no different to, you look at the old school bodybuilders, they'll be on, 5 meals of chicken and broccoli, a small amount of chicken and broccoli. How many calories do you think that is for a 100-kilo bodybuilder? It's like less than 1,000 calories, and they're the biggest dudes. You know what I mean? Bodybuilders have a ton of muscle mass, so it's just an unnecessary evil, and some can get there far easier. Their adaptive thermogenesis doesn't seem to be as significant for them, and they can drop energy balance by 10-20%. They can keep it there the whole way into the show, and everything's hunky-dory. But the rest of us, we drop energy, and the adaptive thermogenesis kicks in. Great, no worries. We can function on 1,800. Okay, we'll go to 1,600. Yeah, no problem. Is that the best you got? Okay, 1,400 and an hour cardio. Oh, okay, now I'll start losing a bit of body fat. One person's prep to an individual's prep is completely different. Albeit it's all to do with energy balance and getting the balance right and all that type of stuff. But
I read something yesterday that Joe Binley, the owner of Anabolic Designs, Project AD, I don't know if you've seen that line of supplements, he put something up yesterday that was like, what was it? If you're looking to compete, are you prepared to eat whitefish and broccoli 6 times a day? He's like, that's not the goal, but are you prepared to do it at the beginning of prep? Because if you're not, don't prep.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I mean,
like, the goal is never to go down to 1,000 calories or whatever, but if you are prepping and you want to be in the best shape possible, if you're not that lucky 5% that you mentioned, where they respond really well, sometimes You've got to do the sucky stuff.
Yeah, man.
You've got to go hard on the calories.
And look, I mean, yeah, and you know yourself, like as coaches, we'll do our best to make sure there's a ton of variety, and it just isn't white fish and broccoli, and there'll be variety, you know, the white fish, the different white fish, maybe some other seafood, or you know, chicken breast, turkey breast. So there is variety and a variety of green vegetables, but you know, irregardless, it's still, you know, 0 calories. You know, eating air towards the end, and yeah, it's a miserable existence, you know, and but you know, it's what we do, and you know, the challenge of presenting a leaner, more conditioned, better balanced physique is what makes us tick, you know, and for those that don't have that, they're just wired differently, man. They don't understand, you know. But for you and I, it's that, like, I've competed 3 times. I won my novice class. Then I competed again. I won the intermediate and then won the overall in Sydney, which was great. Competed a 3rd time, got 2nd in opens. And that 2nd didn't sit well, so that was in 2010. So I've got some unfinished business 7 years later, you know, a bit itchy feet a little bit. You know, I think it's only been not even a year for you.
Yeah, it was last November. And already I'm wanting to.
Yeah, itching to go again, but then it's like, oh man, you know, have you made the changes? Am I in the right headspace?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and the changes definitely, man. But just that headspace, I just don't know. And you know, with business and all that type of stuff, it's something's got to give. You know, it was a desk job last time, so this time it's completely different. So it'd be hard.
Yes.
But hopefully that answered your question about nutrition.
No, that did. And as I said, we're on the same wavelength, really. I started incorporating sort of the step count from last year. I actually trialed it myself. So I'd heard of people doing it, but it's not until I used it in my own prep last year. Yeah. And I realized, wow, there's something to this. And now I've implemented it.
Game changer.
Yeah.
Game changer. And it's so simple.
It's dead easy, but it really does. And I think the people that it makes the biggest difference with is females. So it helps everyone. Sure, yeah. But I find that for me, previously, females were the ones that would plateau quicker in terms of the whole adaptive thermogenesis. From my experience, they adapted quicker. So as soon as I started giving my females a step target and saying you need to hit at least 10,000 on top of you know, whatever your weight training and so on. And it was from then, it was almost like they're just dropping like in a linear fashion week after week, which is
mate, dude,
so simple.
It's so far so good. You know, like I said, and I guess I was looking for, which you know yourself as a comp prep coach and been in the game for a little while. Why does she get lean, and why does she not? Like what's different? And I started sort of digging a bit deeper, and then you know it really stood out when one was like an older girl. She's a PNBA pro, but her lifestyle, you know, she looks after the kids. She you know, 2 jobs, so PT into the city, working another job, back to PT out east. And even if she wanted to put her feet up and reduce NEAT, she just couldn't. And so her progress was really linear. Now the other girl, she had the big change was she got a treadmill for home. So last prep she would have to get to the gym to use the treadmill. So for cardio, I always NEAT outdoors, but specific cardio, I do it on a treadmill, inclined, and it's just consistent. It's going to churn out the same numbers each time. So I do allocate cardio sessions on a treadmill. You know, long, slow distance, 0 impact on training volume. So resistance training is not going to be impacted. I don't do intervals or anything like that. I keep it really simple. But she got a treadmill. So, you know, think about it. Last time she had to get in the car, drive to the gym, 20 minutes away, get a park, a little bit down the road from the gym, get into the gym, treadmill, back in the car, home. Huge amount of non-exercise activity there. Now, probably doesn't even get dressed or put shoes on, flops into the lounge room. And so... And it was light and day between the 2 preps. Last time, you know, pretty linear. This prep, you know, we were playing catch up the whole time. So, yeah, once I started digging a bit deeper, and then I cast my mind back to those few athletes that didn't quite get that condition. Then I had a look at their lifestyle, and it's like, yeah, you know what, they would have had much less NEAT, and just their demeanor and their when they were coming in for checkups and I could just tell they were just moving less and less. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's like Menno said. He said adaptive thermogenesis is reduction in NEAT. It's that simple.
Yep.
Adaptive thermogenesis is NEAT. Fixed NEAT, adaptive thermogenesis is under control to a degree.
Yeah.
So.
Perfect.
Cool.
Okay. Contest prep. So.
Yep.
How did you get into it? And what would you say your success has been in terms of you being like quite a sought after coach? I mean, the fact that you can almost exclusively take on contest prep clients says something for your business. That's my end goal. That's my end goal is to purely work with contest prep athletes. But right now I just don't have that following. So I'd say it's more like 80%, intermediate advanced clients that don't compete, and then 20% contest prep. How have you turned it into 80% contest prep, 20% photo shoot?
Yeah. I guess my contest prep, obviously that's my background, like I mentioned. So obviously I did it a few times, and I think it's really, I don't think, there's one of the things that I just pet peeve. One of the things I hate in the industry is how, there's so many of us that will badmouth others in the industry at the expense of making themselves appear superior or have a better product, or, I'm not going to say that they don't go with a coach unless they've done comp prep, because that's, comp prep, they've been there, done that, so they can relate, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be a great coach. But having said that, I have competed in bodybuilding. So, I guess for me, and even now, like my workouts are 2 hours long. It's just, high frequency. I do the same workout every day, similar to the way if we talk about programming, I'll talk about that. But, it's almost like I've got to do all these things for me to be able to tell my clients to do them. If I can't train, a couple of days a week and eat junk food and do all this type of stuff, if I'm telling my clients to do something completely different, it's almost like, if they're doing it, I'm going to do it. If you're going to diet, I'll diet. So, it's
exactly why I did my last show. My last show, I had a client that was, she had a show booked in, and I could see that sort of motivation was waning a little bit. And I just thought, you know what, for off season, I'm not in bad shape. So I spoke to Akash and I said to him, so my client Vicky's competing in 5 weeks. What do you think? Yeah. He's like, you're fucking nuts. I was like, I think I could do it. And that's why I did it.
Because I remember because I saw there was no prep, and all of a sudden it was, hey,
it was 35 days. It comes back to what you said, diet aggressively for a short period, or that's one extreme, right? But the whole reason I did it was I could just tell that she was perhaps losing a little bit of momentum. And I just thought, I'm quite motivated at the moment. Training's going really well. So we met up like 5 weeks out before our show, did a quick check-in.
Cool.
And I said to her, awesome, would it kind of get you going again if I did it with you? She's like, what do you mean? I was like, screw it. I said, I'll diet alongside you. We'll both compete on the same day. And straight away,
man, you look good.
I don't know how. I pulled it together in 5 weeks. It was, I wouldn't do it again.
No.
But it comes down to what you're saying, right? Practice what you preach. Your clients know that you've been there and done it. Man. You're still living, even if you're not on stage this year, you're still in the gym. You're in the trenches grinding out, and they respect that.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I think that obviously gets a few people, looking my way. I guess in regards to, how have I sort of evolved and just been in a place where I can deal with physique preparation. For me, for a long time, working at Clean Health, I didn't try and promote myself in any way, shape or form. It wasn't like, hey, come work with me, I'm a comp prep coach or anything like that. It was just my philosophy. It was and still is, I'll just get results. So I just sort of, I did some time with Milo Sarchev, 6 months with him. I worked with Shelby Starnes, did, I think, 12 months with him. I did some stuff with John Meadows, a lot of consults with Menno Henselmans. I consult with Dr. Mike Scally about supplementation. There's many people that I invested my money in, time in with, and just honed the craft, and started getting some great results. And obviously I had, like I mentioned, James Kahn. He turned pro, so that obviously generated quite a bit of interest in who I was and what I did. set up, obviously left Clean Health, like I mentioned, set up my own brand, set up an Instagram page, a Facebook page, and you know, it was actually some advice James gave me. He said, look, don't put anything about yourself on there. Just put all your athletes up. I went, yeah, cool, no problem. I got no issues with that. So just comp pics. I don't, anyone who's listening, the Dubois Method on Instagram and Facebook, all I do is put pics. I don't say where they placed. I don't say, oh, so-and-so won nationals or anything like that. It's just, here's Adam, IFBB Nationals 2016, then hashtag various things. And that's it. All it is a page to for people that are an inspiration, I guess, to have a look at the different physiques and I have messages all the time. Hey, cool page. Like, you just scroll through. It's just all my athletes, and
that's what
it's funny. You can see it. You can see them. If you go back, you can see their first shows they did, and then the next year they've done big changes there, and all my athletes are on there. So I make a point of getting a ton of pics from the comps. I get them to organise professional pics at all the comps, and then I will grab all those and throw them up on Instagram. So that obviously helps. So people check out my Instagram and Facebook page, and I guess getting results first and foremost, I think, is essential. But beyond that, having systems and the fact that I don't work with everyone, I think works in my favor to a degree. It's like
gives you a bit of exclusivity.
And it doesn't work for everyone. Don't get me wrong. Like, some just don't like I don't do any cheat meals. It's the same food all the time. There's plenty of variety in there, but it's I cue them to have very boring food choices. I don't want any emotional connection to food whatsoever. It's just fueling the machine. I try and create that scenario, like I said, with the lifestyle, with the Fitbit, with updating them every week, with them sending an update, on Sunday, with pics every week, with me giving them feedback midweek. All these things are inbuilt to keep them on track and eyes on the prize and focused on that end goal. So I guess actually having these systems and these I guess prerequisite before anyone can work with me has also helped weed out the guys and girls that are not so serious. And what I'm left with are guys and girls that are super serious, super dedicated. And yourself, most of my athletes have never competed before, so it's not like I'm picking and choosing. Well, yeah, you did really well at the last comp, I'll work with you. I mean, 90. I think I've got one big guy, a Korean guy, Kwang Suk Lee, who's worked with a few other coaches locally. I took him on for this prep, but I think everyone else, primarily, this is the first show. They always do the first show with me. So now I don't know if these guys and girls are going to get in shape. I obviously can tell genetically if they've got some good clavicle lengths and narrow hips and stuff like that. But so, but it doesn't matter, because these guys have already had all the groundwork done. They know what's coming up. They've already got that end goal, and yourself that once they've got that goal and they understand the process, I mean, it's pretty easy to get someone in really good shape, because they're so dedicated and so passionate about that end goal. And I actually make it a point of if I even, if an update comes through and the motivation's, just a little bit off, bang, straight back. Hey, what do you mean you're not motivated? What's going on here? I won't work with you if you're not 100% focused on this goal. And I sort of have a chat with them and make them think about that end goal. But basically, I don't want to work with anyone that doesn't want to compete, So soon, and some of them don't get there. It's like something happens, lifestyle changes, the work situation changes, and it's like, okay, well, your mind's not in the job anymore. We're going to have to stop prep, and I'll be the first to say that. I never make a point of taking people on just to take their money. I'm really honest with them, and I tell them that this is the way it's going to be. Don't work with me unless all these things, because then there's no surprises. And the other thing is, you can actually get them in pretty good shape, because you've got them from a certain duration. They've agreed to change their lifestyle. They've agreed to take some simple day-to-day supplements. They've agreed to train 2 hours a day, and they've agreed to check in every couple of weeks and every week from 12 weeks out. If anyone does that, they're going to get in pretty bloody good shape. So So I think it's that, Adam. You know, the focusing initially, just getting great results with competitors. That in itself, you know, caused a bit of interest in what I did. Having the podcast really helps as well.
Yeah.
Interviewing people on there, setting up the Instagram and Facebook pages, and just purely putting up pics of all my athletes, and just grinding away, getting results. You know, each round of comps. It's paying off. But you know, people will look and like you said, I love life. I drink coffees and I truly do. But every day I'm doing something for my business. You know, like if it's not emailing, it's writing a program or doing a consult, and everything I do from when I wake up to when I go to bed is all comp prep, all physique prep, all the consults I do, all physique prep. Everything's revolving around dotting I's, crossing T's, checking things, you know, learning new things, you know, trying different peaking protocols, honing the way I send the updates, how I get the programs through. I'm working on an app with a app designer, so I can have a standalone product that I'll be able to design programs on that all my athletes can have, that I'll be able to upsell to other coaches. Really exciting.
Yep.
But everything I do, like, it's 100%. Like, I don't really have a life outside of doing what I do. It's fantastic, and I'm not working.
Yeah.
But it's all I do. So if that's the only thing you do in life, then you get reasonably competent at it, you know?
Well, comes across. It's good.
Yeah.
And that leads us into the next thing, actually. You just touched on peaking. Yep. What are your thoughts here? I know it's a broad thing, but you go from one extreme where you've got prep coaches that change everything in that last week and do some crazy shit, and then you've got others that are now saying, don't do anything on peak week. It's pointless. Yeah. And I think the answer lies somewhere in the middle. There's manipulations to make, and you can't deny in some cases you can change your physique within a few days.
100%.
But at the same time, when you completely overhaul it, sometimes you throw a few too many variables in. So it'd be cool to get your general. Yeah, man. Obviously, it's going to vary, isn't it? Class to class, individual to individual.
Look, it does, and it doesn't. Like, it does, but it's all the same. It'll just be a tweak on what's the same. And everything I do with all the nutritional choices, with all the programming choices, it's all rationalized. It's all for a reason. It's not, hey, let's cut water now and hope for the best, or let's take this supplement now and hopefully it will get you to peak. It will be, no, let's take this because it has a 4-hour half-life, and then we'll take it again in 4 hours, and that should get you nice and dry. You know, it's always based on evidence and research and in the trenches stuff, but also just what basic physiology, biology, and science will say it does. So really, really simple. I get everyone as lean as I possibly can. I don't try and necessarily, you're a bikini, so I won't get you too shredded. You know, I will always try and get the individual as lean as possible, and basically their body type will lend them to a category. You know, I never try and pigeon, you should be bikini, but we'll just put you in figure. It's like, no, you're a bikini body. You know yourself.
Yeah.
You don't have much muscle. You got more curves. You got wider hips. You're a bikini. You're not figure. You know, whereas you got great delts. You got a good V taper. You're a figure. You're a little harder than a bikini competitor. So that is the first thing. So it'll always lend itself to a certain category. But assuming that we've got everything right and it's into that final week, depending on whether, let's assume it's a comp on Sunday. And let's assume it's a bodybuilder, for example, and he's competing on Sunday. So what I do is on the Monday and Tuesday there will be the last couple of workouts. For a bodybuilder, you know, I might do last sort of quad workout the weekend prior, or maybe Monday might be the last quad workout.
Yep.
But Monday, Tuesday, last 2 training days. Usually it will just be the current program. I do a high frequency style of programming anyway, so the workouts will be pretty similar. So it will be, so last 2 days training, Monday, Tuesday. Then what I would do, I would carb load them for 2 days, Wednesday, Thursday. Then I would deplete them again Friday, Saturday, and then they'll compete on Sunday. And then I'll break it down for you. So Wednesday and Thursday would be carb loading days, which would basically be between 10 and 15 grams per kilo of body weight carbohydrates, zero fat, so no fats in any way, shape, or form. As you know, with carbs and fats in the system, fat will always preferentially be stored. It will not get used as an energy source. Carbohydrates are going to be chosen first. So, you have some intramuscular fat stores, and maybe you could throw some fats in to try and load those, but they're very insignificant, and they're not really going to be a game changer. You're far better investing in carbohydrates with the carb load. But I load for those 2 days. I do a pre-carb loading training session, so a high-rep glycogen-depleting style workout. Then they'll consume their first carbohydrate meal straight after that workout. And then I will load a combination of high GI carbohydrates and starchy carbs every hour on the hour for the first 4 hours. Mm-hmm. Remember, we're working off 10 to 15 grams per kilo. So say it was a 100-kilo guy, he would have 1,000 to 1,500 grams spread throughout the day of carbohydrates. Yep. Usually protein, 20 grams per meal, low, not really fussed. They have probably 8 to 10 meals on that day, so that's still going to give 200 plus grams. Yeah, with the carbs and with the protein and carbohydrates as well. So Wednesday, first day carb loading, pre-carb loading training session, basically hit all the parts of the body that they want to carb load, 1 to 2 sets, just increase blood flow, deplete glycogen maybe a little bit, but that's not the main reason. It's just to get blood flow to the muscles, so the nutrient partitioning is good when we load. Mm-hmm. And load. So like I said, something like a low FODMAP, maple syrup, and rice or something like that for every hour for the first 4 hours. Then I spread it out to every 3 hours thereafter. More starchy carbohydrates, some fruit in those other meals. But it will be, say they trained at 6 a.m., they would eat at 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m. Then the next meal would be 10, 11, 12, 1 p.m., 2, 3, 4 p.m., 5, 6, 7 p.m., and 8, 9, 10 p.m., and then they'd go to bed. Okay. So in all those meals, it would be 1,000 to 1,500 grams of carbohydrates. In regards to energy balance, I usually do their total training energy expenditure plus 100%. So say, for example, 2,500 was their baseline, then I would allocate 30% for a training day, so it would be 3,250. Mm-hmm. On a training day energy intake, if their baseline was on a non-training day was 2,500. So I'd give them 3,250 plus that 2,500. So that give you an idea of where the calories would be in that day. It seems to, that 10 to 15 grams seems to match up with about 100% over maintenance for a training day, if you wanted to put numbers on it. And then I do the same the second day, depending on how conditioned they were. If they were super, super lean and on, I'd probably go up closer to that 15 grams for the second day. If they were, not as quite conditioned, then I'd probably go closer to 10 grams for that second day. But then once those 2 days are done, I will then drop back down to pre-carb loading caloric intake. So say they were on 1,500 calories before they carb loaded, then I'd put them back on 1,500, zero carb, just protein and leafy greens, whatever they were on before they carb loaded, same nutrition. A little bit of cardio, AM and PM, no training because glycogen's been loaded. And if you know anything about glycogen, once it's stored, it'll stay for a few days. You don't need to carb load the day before the show. So I load. There's obviously quite a bit of GI distress, churning down 1,500 grams of carbs. So that's another reason why I do it a few days beforehand, so I can load them. Ideally, Adam, what I want them to do is spill over a little bit.
I was just about to ask that. Is the goal to have them just borderline spill, and then the goal is those next 2 days, drop that water off. So come show day, they're full, dry.
100%. So a little bit of fat gain in those 2 days. Then what I do is back into a big deficit. Back into throw some cardio in. We had the option of doing. So it would look something like wake up in the morning, hey, full, smooth out a little bit, cool, no worries, hit the cardio, check it at lunchtime, hey, looking, still a little bit smooth, cool, another cardio session at lunchtime, in the evening, hey, looking, starting to tighten up, all right, one more cardio session, check it on Saturday morning, check it Saturday morning. Yeah, I've tightened up a bit. Probably need a little bit more. Great. Hit another cardio session lunchtime. Looking good. Yeah, I'm pretty good. Okay, one last one at lunchtime, and then that's it. And they can also do some, if they did spill over a little more than anticipated, you can actually do some posing as well. So not actual training, but just some isometric. It's not going to deplete glycogen, but will increase energy expenditure. Again, energy balance coming into it. We want them to tighten back up. So back into a deficit. Do some cardio, incline treadmill. If they're close to being on, they can walk outdoors, tighten back up. It gets everything moving again. Day before the show, I will cut water if it is, if we're going to talk about all sorts of prep, if it's, depends if I'm using pharmaceutical diuretics. If I am, I don't cut water. If I am using herbal diuretics, I use dandelion leaf extract. And I cut water from about 24 hours out from the show. And that's when they'll introduce the dandelion leaf extract. So they'll do 5 mils every hour on the hour. So I say they're competing at 12 on Sunday. I would cut water at 12 on Saturday. Then at 1, they have 5 mils of dandelion leaf. At 2, 5 mils, 5 mils. And they have their meals or whatever. Game day, wake up. I'll also get them to take a laxative on the Saturday just to clear everything out.
This is something I did actually at my last prep, and it made a big difference. I'd use Senecop, something like that.
Yeah.
And I woke up midsection was super tight. It was great.
Dude, yeah, 100%. I'm going to go one better. You can do the laxative the day prior. Do it at about lunchtime so it's emptied everything out by evening through the night. You don't want to do it on the morning of the show or anything silly like that because you might get on stage and go to the toilet. But on the morning of the show, another little trade secret, I get the guys and girls to do a suppository just to empty out anything that's left in the lower intestine, and you'll be like a vacuum on stage. The midsection will be uber tight. So that's what I like to do there. Day of the show, continuing again. If it was a natural competitor, dandelion leaf every hour. Nutrition on the day, I put zero into the stomach, other than a nut butter. I like to go peanut butter. Every couple of hours, they take a spoonful or 2. Remember, we've carb loaded. We've done everything. We don't need to carb on the day or anything silly like that. We've done our job. They're nice and dry, sodium-free. I cut sodium actually from the Friday night. So it's only Saturday that they're without sodium. If you want, you can do the distilled demineralized water. But there's not much sodium in the water up until sort of midday when I cut water the day prior. Still no water on the day of the show. Dandelion leaf, no salt, peanut butter only. And then 60 minutes pre-stage is when I throw sodium back in. So about 5 to 10 grams of sodium. Because anyone will know it's zero chance of getting a pump if you have zero sodium in the body, and that's generally why people don't muck around with things in the final week, because they do things like that and don't put things back in at the right time, or they cut salt for the whole week, or cut water for 2 days, or silly things like this.
How much does that equate to if you're talking, say, are you giving it to them in teaspoons? Will you say to them like a teaspoon of water, half a teaspoon?
Yeah, so like just give me 1 second.
Yep.
So like 5 grams is probably like a heap teaspoon. So like 5 to 10 grams, depending on the size of the individual.
Yep.
So they take that about an hour pre-stage, and I put maple syrup in there. So again, low FODMAP, so it's tolerated really well. 50 to 100 grams, depending on the size of the individual. Big guy would have 100 grams of carbs from maple syrup, which is about 130 mils, not much. But with the salt and the tadalafil, so the Cialis, like I mentioned, that's about an hour pre-stage. So we're basically loading the bloodstream with glucose and salt, pretty much the perfect storm for a good pump. And then they start pumping up about half an hour back before they hit the stage. That one I do like to use again, if it's a bodybuilder, we want to go for a bit of vasodilation. So some red wine in there. A little bit of dextrose, or you could do the maple syrup again, more salt, and some citrulline malate. So they sip on that for the half an hour while they pump up. And then they go on stage, do what they do, jump off, dump a couple of bottles of Powerade, try and get some electrolytes back in there. and then keep sodium intake low for the next few days, just because you mucked around with things.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. The cool thing about the nut butter on the day and not putting any significant food in is calorie dense, so they'll be satiated. They won't feel hungry eating the peanut butter. It doesn't really matter when they go on. If your self shows will usually start at some random time,
of course,
late, and finals will come on late. So with the nut butter, it doesn't matter, man. They just have another spoonful. It doesn't really matter when they go on. And if for example, they took a mouthful of peanut butter and it's like, hey, you're on in half an hour, it's like, yeah, no problem. Neck the maple syrup and sodium, walk backstage, start pumping up. It's not like you just had a meal of a potato or whatever. It's like, oh, holy moly, I got this sitting in my stomach. I thought I was going to be on in a couple of hours. So really, really simple, easy to follow on the day. The only thing that's important is that 60 minutes pre-maple syrup, sodium back in, or you won't get a pump. And then the backstage pump up with the red wine, the citrulline malate. Carbs, again, can be dextrose or maple syrup. And the sodium with the addition of the tadalafil or the Cialis, that hour pre-stage. The difference being with if it was pharmaceutical diuretics, I don't cut water. Mm-hmm. So water intake stays nice and high the day prior. Cut it down to about 1 liter on the day.
Yep.
And the pharmaceutical diuretics, I run the day prior. So on the Saturday, they would start in the morning. Every 4 to 6 hours, they'd take one, depending on how much they need to dry out and whether it's, bodybuilder, physique, bikini, that type of stuff. But a bodybuilder that I'd want to dry out a fair bit, I would start on the morning of Saturday, but keeping plenty of water in there. And every 4 to 6 hours, taking a diuretic. And then morning of the show, again, 4 to 6 hours, and then a couple hours pre-stage will be the last one that they have. Do
you have a preferred diuretic, Diazide or?
I think it's the same as Diazide. The Diuretic is the one that I get the guys to source online. I think it's similar to the Diazide because I've been spoken to I've done a few consults with guys in the US and they like the Diazide. I think it's similar. It's a potassium sparing. So it's not like Lasix.
Perfect.
I mean, they get a bit of cramping. Calcium carbonate. I run about 1,000 milligrams of calcium carbonate with every time they have of one of the diuretics, the pharmaceutical diuretics, and that seems to curb the cramping to some degree. But that's used at their own peril, and some choose to use that, some don't. And if they do, like I said, plenty of water in there. You're not restricting anything for any significant length of time. But that's generally what I do. I do like to manipulate things. I think that's fun. The final week, all my athletes like to do the carb load and
it's an exciting week for them, isn't it? Yeah, they've worked hard. Man, it's almost like when you're 3 weeks out, it's really like you're 2 weeks out because that last week doesn't count.
It doesn't count, man. We're just playing around with things and everything. All the hard work's done. I mean, that's fun in that last week. Carb loading can be tedious. They always say, I can't wait. And I go,
you get to like 4 hours in.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it gets boring.
I never want to have another carbohydrate in my life. Yeah. I completely understand why a lot of coaches won't do much, and I'm cool with that. And if someone was on point at a week out, it makes perfect sense. Just I've heard some guys, cruising like you're landing a jumbo jet. Just nothing drastic, just touchdown, and everything's perfect. So I completely get that and go for it. I personally like to have a bit of fun in those last few days, and the way I do it seems to be pretty consistent and seems to work well. And it's not like we're blindly just doing things, like we're strategically timing things at this, and this is going to happen, and we'll do this before we carb load, and it's this many days out, and then we cut salt from here, and we cut water here, and introduce this. So it's methodical, and it's a process, so far so good. It seems to be fairly consistent each time. So, but that's generally what I do for peaking.
Perfect, good. I like it. Again, when I'm making changes, it's pretty similar. I did put up an article a while ago saying I titled it "Stop Fucking Up Your Peak Week," And I gave 3 example
one.
peaks, and your one actually sounds really similar to the third one that I put in.
Yeah, I mean, each their own, and but like I said, I find the peak week fun, and everyone seems to enjoy it as well. But there is some merit if you've done your job well coming in, then you don't need to do too much in that last week. So, but I'd argue if you did, you'd make them even sharper or even a little fuller.
Yeah, no, there's, as I said, I'm of the camp where for most people, some adjustment, something definitely needs to be done.
When it's like a bikini competitor.
Yeah.
I mean, they might have look, I still give the bikini girls a day. It's just a lot less carbohydrates. Like I wouldn't go, necessarily 10 to 15 grams, but they'll have some carbs. They do their little carb up day, and they complete for those 2 days. They love it. Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah. Okay, training.
Yeah.
So
cool.
the first question was real simple, and it was volume or intensity. But I think you've kind of hinted towards volume.
Well,
are you going to surprise me here?
Well,
here we go.
Well, it's both. It's both. I mean, it's interesting. Obviously, Brad Schoenfeld came out and sort of dumbed everything down for us, and it made it really simple. So, metabolic stress, mechanical tension, tensity, and exercise-induced muscle damage are the key 3 things that are going to influence hypertrophy. And since then, exercise-induced muscle damage is it's probably not the be-all and end-all, and you can certainly get There was a study that's just come out, I think, in the last couple of weeks that showed hypertrophy in the absence of exercise-induced muscle damage. So it's not a proxy for hypertrophy. So it's not like you want to try and inflict as much damage as you possibly can. So that sort of puts exercise-induced muscle damage to one side. It occurs, let it occur, but don't try and emphasize it, I think, if you're trying to drive hypertrophy maximally. Then it comes back to metabolic stress and mechanical tension. Mechanical tension, obviously, load on the bar fundamentally is going to influence mechanical tension. I guess Brad Schoenfeld showed that, working between 60 to 85%, and Dr. Israel, another person who a mentor of mine who I've done many consults, I've watched all his YouTube clips, and Steve Hall doing some good stuff with Revive Stronger over there, and it seems to have him on every week, which is really cool.
Yeah.
He 60 to 85% looks like where you want to spend the most of your time, between 8 and 15 reps. But talking to Menno Henselmans, and he heavily influencing what I'm doing, it seems to be all about mechanical tension and the metabolic stress. Although again, if you look at Brad Schoenfeld's research, there's elevations in obviously the cell swelling and IGF-1, there's growth factors that increase and all this stuff that's occurring, and that is all occurring, but it doesn't seem to be what's mediating the hypertrophy. What's causing the hypertrophy is the fatiguing of the muscle fibers, so complete muscle fiber activation, which equals mechanical tension, and it's still mechanical tension that's driving the hypertrophy. So it's sort of like, do we invest time in focusing on huge volume and repetitions within the set and focusing on metabolic stress, or is time better spent focusing on higher loads and more mechanical tension? Because mechanical tension is fundamentally what is driving. Metabolic stress is achieving mechanical tension, and load is achieving mechanical tension. So it doesn't really matter which you choose. Both are going to result in full muscle fiber activation, which equals mechanical tension, which equals the signal to grow new contractile protein. And then if we have the protein set right and the calorie set right and the frequency and all that type of stuff, we'll grow muscle. So the caveat that comes with it's not that you can't lift heavy all the time. You can, and if you can handle it and your joints can handle it, then if you can do, really high loads for sufficient volume, then you'll grow really well. But the issue is, it's obviously recovery rates then come into play, and then you might not be able to get the desired frequency in that's optimal for hypertrophy. So that will be one reason that you may not want to do triples for your hypertrophy training. The other thing is, when you have really high mechanical tension or intensities, is the tendons, joint structures, all these things. And you know yourself, I'm sure over the years you've spent time where you have lifted heavy, great, but how long?
Right shoulder, left elbow.
Dude, yeah, man, it's some people have bulletproof joints, and they're the guys that they can squat heavy, 3 times a week, and they'll grow like a weed. Great. The rest of us can't. So it's that acknowledging that mechanical tension is absolute, and then designing programs where you have elements of mechanical tension and metabolic stress, with remembering that metabolic stress will still fatigue the muscle fibers and still create mechanical tension. It's just via a different mechanism.
Yep.
And the Henselman sort of points out that high repetition seems to be I think Brad Schoenfeld's releasing a paper soon, but don't quote me on that. But he has shown that for type 1 fiber hypertrophy, and obviously we want to, if we're in the business of bodybuilding, we want to hypertrophy everything we possibly can.
Of course, yep.
So high repetition seem to preferentially target, and that would sort of make sense. Although I sort of rattled off, the high reps targets the type 1 fibers more so. And he said, well, the high reps actually, hypoxia is created, and that actually stops the type 1 fibers from being recruited. And it's type 2Bs that come in. Mm-hmm. So he sort of corrected me on that. But it does seem to be high repetitions will target type 1 fibers preferentially in a mesocycle. So, that undulating intensities in a given mesocycle is where you want to best spend your time. But yes, answering your first question, for hypertrophy, volume has to be sufficient. So it's great having high mechanical tension and intensity, but if you're only squatting one triple twice a week, it's not really going to grow much muscle. Yep. You really need to get sufficient volume over a microcycle or over a 7-day period to drive hypertrophy. And the magic is, I guess, stimulate, don't annihilate. Yep. And it's that nice balance between volume and intensity, having some elements of lower rep work, some elements of higher rep work, and looking at set volume over the course of the week, prioritizing parts of the body that are lagging first in the training session, prioritizing parts of the body that with a higher total set volume for that particular body part over the course of the week, and looking at frequency as well, being a big driver of hypertrophy, and throughout the mesocycle, focusing on increasing volume over time. Would be, if we were talking about training, they're the types of things that I would advocate, rather than sort of knowing, a wave load or a heavy light or a 6-12-25 method, understanding that enough volume's needed, understanding that working with some low rep work and some high rep work is going to probably be the most bang for the buck in regards to maximizing full muscle fiber recruitment and full muscle mechanical tension driving hypertrophy. Looking at adequate frequency, how long does it take for that muscle to recover? Okay, it takes 48, for most of us that are advanced, 24, 48 hours maybe. Yeah. If we do a really good job, we might get 48 hour recovery curve. So really, unless you and I are squatting every other day, we're not really maximizing frequency for the quads, or yep. whatever your quad dominant work is. So I think frequency is one thing that a lot of coaches out there don't utilize to its full potential, and actually tracking their total set volume for the week, and from mesocycle to mesocycle, changing things like intensity slightly, rep ranges slightly, exercises, obviously variation there from mesocycle to mesocycle drive hypertrophy, but set volume changing from mesocycle to mesocycle, rather than, hey, here's your new program. Last one was heavy light, this one's a wave load. This is going to be cool. It's like, well, what's the frequency? What have we changed volume? Is the volume higher? Is it lower? Are we working in higher intensities in this, or, have we got a higher frequency of body part? Are we prioritizing the carbs that were lagging in the last one? Talk to me. What are all these things doing? So that's where I think a lot of people struggle with programming, is that they will know certain programs and throw these programs at their clients, and usually it's a different program, so it'll work. But then you do that a few times, it's like, ooh, where do I go now? I've done 2 programs together. Now, maybe I'll go back to the first one or whatever, it's long-term periodization throughout that whole macro cycle is where you should have the skill set and the ability to periodize. And I think when you understand that, those key principles of, okay, well, what drives hypertrophy? Okay, these things drive hypertrophy, mechanical tension, metabolic stress. That's where I want to invest most of my time. Cool. Okay, well then let's have a look. Where's his frequency at the moment? Okay, he's doing a bro split once a week. Okay, let's increase that to twice a week for everything, and let's see and let's start between 15 and 25 sets per body part. Throw that in. Less sets for the overlap parts like bis and tris and delts, and more like the 25 sets for the back and chest and quads, and we'll see what happens. Get to the end of the mesocycle. Okay, great. It was overload added every week. Did we, was there actually a stimulus for the muscle to grow every week? Or no, we lifted the same weight for the whole mesocycle. Okay, well, why is the muscle going to grow? It's not.
Of course.
So we need to add load every week. So, once you understand what I think drives hypertrophy and what's needed, then the whole programming thing gets really simple. And the way we program from mesocycle to mesocycle is we tweak exercises. So we give them a different exercise. We don't abuse variation for the sake of variation. We give X amount of exercises to get a certain result, and we leave the program, like it's not broken, don't fix it. They're still adding load to the back squat. Why would we go, okay, now we're going to do a front squat? It's like, okay, it's only 4 weeks in and we deloaded for that 4th week and now we're doing a new program. It's like, well, well, it was time for a change. It's like, well,
no, they haven't.
I was putting 5K. Look, dude, you haven't, what?
Just taking back to square one.
Yeah, it's like they're spinning the wheels. So, longer mesocycles, my program's I'm not saying that mine are the be-all and end-all, but 8 weeks. Okay, so they build in volume over the 8 weeks. They deload in the 8th, and they go into a new mesocycle. But 8-week programs towards the end, coming into the show, I might do a couple of 4 weeks, and that changes. But off season, because you need to give the body enough time to actually adapt, enough time to add load so they can actually grow new contractile protein. If we're chopping and changing programs, it's muscle confusion. And, okay, for an athlete, it has merit. There might be some nervous system benefits there and keeping things interesting and skill-based and all that type of thing. But for you and I mean, we're aesthetic bodybuilders. That we just want to get the muscle as big as possible. Well, muscles just want to do the same shit over and over and add more load to it, and then it will grow, give it enough protein and recovery, hit it with a high enough frequency and volume, and it's not rocket science. It'll do its thing. So, that's where my so intensity and volume both relevant, and you need both. That would be my answer.
No, perfect answer. That was great. Covered it all. Awesome.
Yeah, man. It's all probably stuff that you're doing, and it's really, for a long time I was having great programs, but not everyone would progress. Like some would get really good results, and others wouldn't, and then I started digging a bit deeper, and there were holes through the programs. That it wasn't like the frequency was always the same. It was underutilized, or the volume didn't increase, or I added load and tried to get them to lift heavier, but a lot of the other variables I missed. So when I started changing those things and actually reducing variation and having just minimal exercises each program, and then all of a sudden variation became a big stimulus of change. Whereas before I would do every conceivable angle in a workout, and then where do you go, man? How do you use exercise as a potent driver of new hypertrophy? It's like, well, we did every possible delt exercise in that last program. I did front raises, side raises, posterior delts, Hawkins on the next day, the cables on the day after. Like, we're probably going to have to do something similar. And then variation, which if used correctly can be a huge influence on hypertrophy, is no longer an influence, because you've already confused the muscle throughout the whole last mesocycle. So I actually found myself regressing back. So my workouts at the moment, sometimes they're only one workout and they just take it through different rep ranges.
Mm-hmm.
So they do one workout every day. They come in, they start in the squat rack, then they go to the bench press, then they super simple, check your brain at the door, come in, do the reps, get out, lift the load. You got to open an encyclopedia to work out how to do the exercise, and your different towels on different machines, and chasing yourself around the gym. Yeah, cool, but really impractical. And is it getting better results than a straight set? Repeatedly with a high frequency throughout the week? Probably not.
Yeah.
So, I found myself reducing, making things much more simple. Like keep it simple, stupid.
Yep.
And manipulating those variables like volume, like changing the intensities from mesocycle to mesocycle, looking at exercise being a change, being a driver of hypertrophy, looking at that frequency, a big game player. And then when I started changing all those variables, they're the things that seem to have far more influence than a wave load or a Rawdon method, or I'm not saying they're not good programs. They're awesome programs. But they're an awesome program if you break it down and go, oh, well, it's an awesome program because the frequency for that body part is 2 times per week and the volume is actually 15 sets. Like, there'll be programs that work well. Once you understand, you can look back at them and go, oh, that's why that worked well. It ticked this, and this box. No wonder it was a good program. So I'm not saying that any program's a bad program. I think all programs are awesome, one-off. But it's like, how do you progress that program? Understand the basics of programming, understand the basics of hypertrophy, and then use those things to vary from mesocycle to mesocycle. And don't program every 4 weeks like everyone else does. Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Aside from general pop who get bored, and that's completely different demographic. That's not my skill set. Occasionally my guys and girls will say, hey, I'm bored, I want a new program. It's like, you've got another 3 weeks in that program, you'll be fine. And
exactly. Yeah. You're doing this for a purpose, not to cure your boredom.
Exactly. Gen pop, completely different.
Yeah.
Change 3-4 weeks makes perfect sense. But that would be my philosophy on programming at the moment.
Well, the results are speaking for themselves. So it's working.
Yeah, look, I still, occasionally have someone that's a bit left of field and challenges and keep you on your toes.
Yeah.
It's but fortunately, I mentor with a ton of great people, and there's always someone to reach out to and just dot I's and cross T's. And sometimes you're missing something obvious, other times you're doing everything right. And one of the things that I will say is there's always a reason. There's always a reason for something not happening, and it's just a matter of. And to be honest, I occasionally, not all the time, but occasionally like those ones that are left of field, and we got to sort of take a step back and go, all right, now what's going on here, and analyzing and checking things and finding out what the actual reason is. But it's there's always a reason, man.
Perfect. I agree. Right, this has been awesome. Loads of information. It's been great.
I loved it. I love talking about all this stuff. So hopefully,
no, it really comes across. When Akash and I spoke about doing these little interviews, we wanted to go for people that have the same passion that we do. So you see loads of people that do put out really good content, but is it because they're passionate about training and nutrition, or is it because they're just good at marketing?
Yeah.
And they're just, they want to become an online trainer. They know that putting out content will hopefully equal clients, and they put out good content, but you can just tell someone's passion. You can just see it.
Yeah.
And this is why we want to get you on. And this is why this conversation has been. There's a few questions on here actually that I've still got that I'd like to hold back if that's okay, and get you on again.
Yeah, man. Yeah, 100%. We can talk about all sorts of stuff. You know, like I will say that as well. Look, the industry has many amazing individuals doing awesome things, and you know, we're spoilt with opportunities to work with people and seminars, and you know, you've been 10 years or so. I mean, back in the day there wasn't that many courses to do. It was really hard to upskill yourself, but now so many guys are doing so many good things. So I think the industry is really heading in the right direction. It's exciting times with all the good research, that's evidence-based stuff that's coming out too, with Schoenfeld and Henselmans and Israel and, you know, the Alan Aragons, and there's lots of guys doing some good stuff, and still the old school favorites, the Poliquins and the Thibs, and all these guys are going from strength to strength. And I think you can, you know, really learn from all these guys. Have something really good to offer, and you can learn from anyone.
Yeah, definitely. So, where can the people watch this video? Where can they find you?
Well, mate, part of the allure of the mystery of the Dubois Method is, you know, first thing, you need to set up a website that just says coming soon. So I paid for it, and I just got busy, didn't get around to it. So if you go to the DuboisMethod.com, it's just going to be coming soon. And Tom and I joke about it all the time. I think it's been 2 years like that. So, you know, I'll keep paying my yearly subscription, and not sense. Having it soon there. But outside of that, like I said, Instagram, feel free to follow me, message me. I'm really generous with my time. If you're local to Sydney, all you got to do is buy me a coffee, and I'll chew your ear off about whatever you want. So Instagram and Facebook, add me as a friend if you're in the industry. I love supporting those around me. Rawdon Dubois or the Dubois Method on Facebook and the Dubois Method on Instagram. You can watch what I do there. And, of course, Under the Bar. So Under the Bar podcast you can download and listen to on SoundCloud and iTunes. And we've got a really cool website, underthebarpodcast.com, I think is, but you'll find it. I don't really do the email side of things, but you can shoot us an email there, and we'll talk about it on air. So any of those things they can use to get in touch, man.
Perfect. Thanks again.
And if you want to work, with me, there's lots of hoops you have to jump through. It's not easy,
but it's worth it.
But
head to the Dubois Method page, and you'll see.
Yeah.
No, awesome.
But, absolute pleasure, Adam. I hope you have a sunny day for a change over there, and I look forward to chatting again soon, man.
Yeah, big thanks from both Akash and I. Obviously, he's not on the call, but he's just excited about this as I was.
Yeah, man, I love his work too. You're doing awesome things, guys, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for both of you.
Brilliant. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, Rawdon. Take care, mate.
No worries, my man. Talk to you soon. Bye.